Upstream, are you with me? Under rainbow, curtain in the city, ocean, around me, downpour. Upstream, are you with me? Feeling downpour. Upstream, are you with me?
Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone a couple of minutes past midday, making it the same time UTC. Really big shout out to everybody joining the stream live today, as well as everybody that watches this on recording. Craigie boy, how are we doing, my friend? NBA Young Believe, Erica, everybody that's starting to stream into the show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. So what are we going to look at today? Main focus is going to be on Bitcoin for a few different reasons. Okay, so we've seen a little bit of strength coming back in. We've had a really super interesting last few days, which is what we're going to take a look at in a moment. Just basically price action not really doing anything, and that can be considered both sides of the argument. Is that bullish or is that bearish? And I've got some pretty interesting thoughts on that, actually. Now, I also think it's one of those times that you've got to look towards sentiment. You've got to look towards social media, these platforms that in some respects can be so very, very distracting for all the wrong reasons, excuse me, but can hold a lot of really, really good insights in others. And that's to read the market, to read the participants, to read people in the public domain and what their thought process is, because that gives you a very, very good idea overall of what retail sentiment is. All right. Seb, hello, mate. Sat in Chesterfield with a hat on. It's freezing. Yeah, I'm here, obviously, in London, and it's not very much different today as it goes. It is fresh as you like. It's it's weather that Yuki, my husky, is enjoying very much. But for me, it's getting to the point now that I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit of spring start to break through. Knit, my dear friend, how are you doing? It is cold, yeah, it is, especially when you start venturing up north. So, before we make me ramble on too much about the weather, Dora, my wonderful Dora, how are you doing? I know you're in Croatia at the moment, seaside, sunshine, blue skies. That sounds amazing. You're going to make Erica very, very jealous in a minute, who's down there in -10 at the moment. Actually, we were forecast to get some snow this afternoon, which I'm really hoping we do. Don't hate me for that, Erica, because I know you guys really get some serious snow, but we really don't over here. And I would absolutely love to be out running about with that in the Husky later. That'd be brilliant. There's just a 25-degree swing between you two today, Erica and Dora. I hope you're having a lovely time in Croatia, by the way, Dora. It's a country that I know so many people have visited in the last few years, especially, that I don't know anybody that doesn't say it's just not one of the most amazing countries they've been to. I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting out there later this year. Miguel, hello, mate. How are we doing? So anyway, before I ramble on too much, I wanted to have a focus here on Bitcoin. We are going to take a look at some alts. I want to look at Bitcoin domination. I want to look at the total charts today. I want to run through what my thought process is at the moment. I'm very, very much, and have been for the last few weeks, focused on trading the indices, right? So the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, even gold, actually. And I tell you as for why. Well, it's easy to see in hindsight, right? But these candles here are a really, really big reason. Okay, so at the moment, just before I kind of get into the more granular detail, what is really worth saying is that Bitcoin is just in a range. It's just in this big, big range, okay? And if we just take the bottom of this here, which is, a key area of interest just because it was the key pivot in this move, it's where price last found resistance when it was setting, the highs over here before it broke above. And then this level here has just been an incredibly good buy zone. All right. In the same vein that this level here has just been a really good sell zone. All right. So when we look at it here, really kind of focusing on the absorption from the wicks, and I'm anchoring to this one here because that's where we saw such a strong rejection. I don't know if everybody remembers this massive kind of Darth Maul type candle that we got here. But look, you know, price is basically doing this at the moment. You can even really kind of fit a midline on this if you want to. Look, right, something around about here. All right, maybe kind of anchored to this high over here, resistance through this area. What did we have? Deviation, price closed above, retest, price sold to the highs, closed below, retest, resistance, resistance, deviation, price just absolutely dropped, closed above, retest, price comes up, support through this area until we lose it here. We've now retested this level here. It's around about the 99,500 level, and now price is selling off. All right. So for high time frame context, it's very, very important that we factor these things in, right? We are just pinging about in this range. Now, I released a Bitcoin report last night, as we do every single week. All of the analysts, including the legend himself, Crypto Burb, share that responsibility. And it's so that our members get a view from all the different traders that we have. Trading is a profession whereby there's a number of different ways to become successful, and there's even more ways to fail at it, right? But it's one of those things that some people, you know, are great trend followers like Crypto Bird. We have magnificent algorithmic traders out there, like my dear friend Pedro, Pedma7, you know, who cut his teeth with us here at the Bird Nest as well, and now, you know, doing some absolutely incredible things in the space. You know, we've got people that are using volume like Razoon, okay? We've got people like me and Pitt, who are your very classic price action traders, a little bit old school. With Pitt being one of the best swing traders out there, in my opinion. And, you know, we've got people like Jay, Trading Tank, etc. I won't kind of keep going on. Chris in the fundamental section. The key thing is that when you're building a career in this space, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, as we would say in the UK, right? Which means there's a lot of different ways to approach it. So it gives you insights from traders from their perspective, how they're trading the market. So for me, yesterday I was saying very clearly that I think this is quite a positive sign here for Bitcoin. I think it's a little bit neutral, but it's pinging around between the range, right? Look what happens every time we run this area up here, we get some really good short setups. Every time we run this area down here, we get some good longs. And somebody who I'm very, very proud to say has become a friend over the last year or so, and somebody that I've had just an epic amount of respect for in the space, Folius, has a brilliant saying for this with a range, which is don't diddle in the middle, right? So I have to credit him for that. It makes me laugh every single time because I picture him saying it with his dulcet Irish tones, right? But he's right. You're in dangerous area if you know you're swinging these positions. You want to be swinging from the lows to the highs to the lows, right? You're in the middle here. You're coming up to a point that could be resistance. You know, if we look at when we drew that midline in here. So what we want to do with this, for me, specializing in intraday trading, my interest in the moment is in this inside bar range, all right? So we have this, which is the inside bar candle here, mother bar candle here. These two candles make the inside bar range. What's really interesting here, like any range play at all, we had this swing low here. This is a 4-hour swing low as well. So we'll look at that when we drop down the time frame. What we got to do is we're looking at this. And I said yesterday, if price flushes out these lows and closes back within, then today we're long. Right, and that's why we have a long bias for the day. However, that is from an intraday perspective. That means that I'm looking to get in and out of these trades very, very quickly. It doesn't mean that I'm entering something here, sticking a stop loss here and have a target up here somewhere. We just don't know at the moment. The price action doesn't have that clearer read on it. However, some of the key takeaways have been that basically since price came down, right, and we set this bearish order block here, which is the body of this up close candle, OBD, meaning order block daily. So I tag this to the bottom of the up close candle, price closed below it here, validating it. We found rejection once, twice, and now we're back at this area again, okay? This is really, aside from the highs and lows, this is what's capping the market here. If we're looking at our order block theory, then we would need price to close above this order block body here because these are all consecutive down close candles. So, you know, when we're looking for this in terms of a change in state of delivery, or we're looking for this to get back on board in terms of confirmation of the bullish trend, it's difficult because we need to be taking out this high here, you know, after setting this order block. So it's more a favor to intraday trading for me at the moment, all right? Let's take a look. So, yeah, 4 weeks in different places. I know, lucky you. That's going to be an absolute adventure, Dora. I am jealous. London's lovely this time of year. I mean, it's lovely all year round. some of the people are a-holes, unfortunately, but it's but the place itself is always beautiful. So much history here, but our weather is just atrocious these days. So looking forward to either having some snow. Snow-covered London is a really beautiful place, or just spring breaking through it and getting a bit more sunshine and warmth. Jojo, yeah, absolutely. Gold's been unbelievably clean to trade, like unbelievably clean. But BTC could be about to recover soon. Yeah, I agree. And I think this is where I want to also look at the sentiment. I know I don't kind of go into that too much at the moment, but the sentiment is just poisonous out there at the moment. You know, every pump we get, you get this little bit of mild euphoria, and then the first pullback, everybody's willing to just sell everything, right? And I really, really like that. You know, it's all the emojis that you see out there. It's all of the, you know, the crying face Pepe gifs and all the other bits and pieces is just telling me that if that's where the sentiment is for retail, this is probably, you know, getting close right now to a bottom. Now, there's a lot of other factors we plug into this, nothing less so than macroeconomics. We need to look at the kind of landscape out there as well. We want to be checking things like the strength in the dollar, the market's overall appetite for risk, looking at our indices, our S&P 500, the NASDAQ, for example, also considering where the bond markets are, you know, how well rewarded are the major funds being for putting their money in the safe bid, which is the yields at the moment, okay? We need to look at the way that things are developing geopolitically, right? So there's a lot of things that we put into this pot to look for this. However, I feel like when we look at this chart, something's really, really clear, and that's in and around the kind of early 90s, yeah, that this area is seeing really, really big value for Bitcoin. And one of the main things that makes me think that are looking at these two wicks in particular. Okay, so, you know, once price came down here and cleared out these lows, yeah, this wick here shows such a lot of absorption to the lows, right? So look at this one. You know, that was a monster reaction when price came in here. And actually, if we just kind of, let me get rid of that for a minute. We flick back onto the weekly chart very quickly. Raz, my man, you just missed me talking about your awesome volume trading and range trading skills, actually, mate. I hope you were there to enjoy the plug. So just moving to a weekly very quickly, and DCA Alpha, yeah, rainy all year round. That's basically the British weather now. Probably fit to it because we do love to moan about the weather. So as we're looking at this here, just to give you some context over some of these lines, this red line here for me is the key level that's capping the market, right? 105, 160 flat. I do not trust flat numbers, you know, especially when they're round numbers, right? Now, this level here, the reason it's capping the market, because this was the high that was set on December the 9th. Price has failed in numerous weeks now, 1, 2, 3, 4 attempts to close back above this level. Yes, when we move down to a daily, we've highlighted the key area of the wicks as an area of absorption or an area of supply. However, on a weekly scale, if we remove those boxes, right, then, you know, this is the key thing for me here, is this high. And on the low, it's this. All right, it's the low that's sat at 92,273 flat. Again, look, zeros at the end. Just make of that what you will. But again, if we look at the area of absorption, this was the low, right, that's capped the market, because prices, again, 1, 2, 3, 4 attempts now to go back below that low. So our high probability setups come from shorting the highs, yeah, and longing the lows here. Okay, so while we're in the middle, intraday plays are favorable. However, we still want to be positioning ourselves now. For me, I'm still looking at this and I'm saying to myself, you know, there's a lot of crypto out there that's massively valued at the moment, in my opinion. Key thing is highlighting the narratives and understanding, you know, what of those narratives could be strong, what's going to come back into it. Is my absolutely decimated soul bag full of high risk memes going to recover? You know, who knows, right? Who knows? So it's an interesting one, right? So I don't think it's necessarily time to start rushing into some high risk plays. For me, I'm looking at this as I would look at trading legacy markets, right? Equities and indices, etc., right? And what I'm saying to myself is I'm looking for a flight to quality, meaning that I want to find high quality projects with good teams that, you know, are either generating a lot of revenue, have a lot of traction, have a lot of involvement with established companies, and saying, look, which of these projects is undervalued at the moment, right? And just some that come off the top of the mind, I'd be looking at, you know, things like FET, for example, all right, you know, looking at the other AI plays. What about some of the disruptors that we're getting up there at the time? Is there any room for them to get in there? You know, AI agents, stuff like that, for example. So that's a little bit around where I am at the moment, and we will cover that shortly. But before we go into any of that, it's really important to understand where we are from our overall market perspective and where we are with Bitcoin. So that's what I'm going to rip into now. Whack, my man, how are you doing? Lodvig, hello, mate, hello. So anyway, they're the levels that are capping the market for me. This is key liquidity to the downside. All right, and then we also have this wick down here as well, 91,279 flat. All right, and then we have this one down here, 89,268.48. It's the first one of those that isn't a flat number. When I say flat number, I mean 2 zeros at the end after the decimal point, right? So very difficult to get a market to stop on exactly that number, if you get my meaning. So just to move down to here, 4 hours is going to give us the most context at the moment. Okay, so this is the focal point. And what I said in the report last night was very, very clear. I'm looking for longs. If we recover this level, we flushed out these lows. Beautiful. I didn't get any trades set up in here, unfortunately. It happened through Asia, which is actually what I thought was going to happen. We've seen it a few times recently. It's absolutely fine. It is what it is. Yes, yak, yes, as our wonderful Polish friends would say. So now I'm saying to myself, what do I need to see if I want to be involved in these markets today? Now, the key thing, and the reason that this is drawn in, this is a balanced price range. That is a bullish gap here, close through with a bearish gap here, almost to the cent actually, and it works the other way around as well. Okay, so for example, if you get a bearish gap with a bullish gap close to it, that's also a balanced price range as well, or BPR, which you'll see on the charts. The whole point of this is the bullish gaps, we expect price to, if we're going to be bullish here, right, we expect price to shift structure as it did here. It came from a higher low, broke this high, which means that we had a market structure break. People start to get bullish. These are the areas people do get trapped, however, because you're looking for price to find support here. Yeah, within this gap, when it closes through here, this becomes a gap inversion, which goes to a nice dark purple color, meaning that we expect this to offer resistance, right? So we got resistance here, but then price, what did it do? Closed above it here. But once this candle closed, and we had this bearish gap, we then noticed they run through one another. This then just goes to a slightly lighter shade over here to signal that it's a balanced price range. Now we expect that to offer strong resistance, meaning that if price just rips through it like this, that's probably overall quite a positive sign for continuation. However, as we can see here, literally the flat of these bodies has smashed back into this daily order block. This is the area that when we zoom back out to the daily, once we closed underneath it here, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days here underneath it, but we had 2 major rejections here with very long upside wicks showing a lot of absorption there. Sellers stepping in, winning the battle, but they really couldn't push price much lower than this. I mean, look at these candles. A doji candle means indecision. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the buggers, right? So for me, I'm saying, well, why indecision? And what does indecision mean? The same way that when we see the inside bar pattern, that often links to indecision in the market. We see that as price moves into a point of consolidation before it then looks for expansion. So as we look in here, I'm saying to myself, well, actually, we're in a downtrend. On a daily sales scale, we are selling off. However, we've taken the lows again and had this really bullish reaction. This, for me, is a sign that the market, or the price, is just getting suppressed here. The market is trying to sell this off, but it's just not having it. It's holding here, meaning that we're seeing the buy orders come in. We're seeing people willingly step into the market here. So at the moment, I think this is more bullish than it is bearish. Now we're back above this level. If we start closing back in here again, I think it's pretty nailed on. We start running out some of these lows, okay? So where I am at the moment, if I want to be involved in the markets today, intraday, my first kind of point of interest is here. I'll just do it in green just to really symbolize the fact you see it on my charts in gray, but just to show you it's a bullish gap here. What have we had? We've had price take liquidity, few really interesting things here. Right? We've had price sweep liquidity from a low. We've then had these 4 consecutive down close candles, which have now been closed above. That makes this a valid and high probability order block because it's come from a point where it's taken liquidity. We've now closed above this here. So if I'm looking for confluence, I'm saying, well, okay, we've seen an initial rejection here at the daily order block. I'm fine with that. Price can drive quite deep into this. The key thing for me now is watching price hold this level, and then any bullish reactions here are for buying. Okay, I would want to step into this on an intraday basis, build the position from there, because I still don't think that we have the very cleanest read in the market. However, from an intraday perspective, I'm looking for longs from this level. If we start closing beneath this gap here and violating it, this is now no longer of any interest to me after this because it's already been violated. So I'm now looking for this here and saying, okay, we close below this, we invert this gap, then we're really looking to come on a little bit deeper. Gordon, my friend, oi Savaloy, indeed. How are we doing? I'm absolutely gutted for you that you missed our moan about the weather a few moments ago. As a few of us fellow Brits just having a good old moan up about the rain, which I'm sure you would have really, really enjoyed. So that's it, really. That's my plan on Bitcoin on an intraday basis. Like I said, as we start to zoom out, we need to appreciate that really we are, still just in the middle of this massive range. So we still need a lot of continuation here. We still need to be closing above these down close candles, really looking to expand above this high at the moment if we want to be looking for, the first phase of structural recovery as well as a change in state of delivery. Okay, so very, very much that on the mind at the moment. So let's just run through a few other factors that I think are so very important in getting a read on where we are in the markets at the moment, and then we're going to take a look at some altcoins. So first thing I want to kind of take a look at here is the DXY. So this is the dollar index. Again, we're looking at news catalysts that we've seen within the last week. This is kind of a major range, been trading this range for a number of years. All right, we can see how long the data sets go back. Showing my age a little bit there probably, but look, the truth of the matter is this range served me really, really well over the years, and just like any range play, I'm just looking for these levels to either be respected when we recover these levels. Whenever the DXY is bullish, I'm always a little bit cautious towards risk assets, be that the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, and especially obviously cryptocurrency. They're not always correlated, of course. If we put Bitcoin on here, let me just change the color of that so that it's not the same as the range. Yeah, so as we look on here and we put Bitcoin's price on here, this is a very good example of when the correlation or the inverse correlation is very, very strong. We can see the DXY selling off here, yeah? So we see the price action on the chart going down, and conversely, we see the price of Bitcoin going up, okay? That's the correlation that we're looking for. Now, the dollar is seen in a few different ways, which is why it's quite difficult sometimes to interpret it, because look, the dollar index is it's the dollar in a basket of currency weighted against other currencies in a currency basket that's more heavily weighted towards the euro. Okay, so how do we use that? We're looking at a market's kind of, is it looking at this as a flight to safety? Yeah. So basically, buying and holding dollars has, for a long time been a very, very safe bet. It's the world's currency, it's the oil currency, for example. However, there's subtle nuances to this as well, because a country's economy plays into how strong its currency is, as does the news, the CPI print, PPI print, unemployment, manufacturing, non-farm payroll, non-farm employment, as we saw last week. Okay, so overall, we're trying to measure a few different things, which is, for example, when we're in a period of quantitative easing, people have more money in their pocket because the money printers are on. Therefore, ultimately, you see people more willing to speculate with that money, meaning that people typically will take riskier bets. And that's exactly the same as it is with the market. Okay, so people will back riskier assets looking for a higher return in a shorter period of time. If we're in a risk-off environment, people are typically there to look for lower returns on safer bets. All right, and that's then, so this is why at the moment I think this is holding a level of support here. Really wanted this to be the deviation that led to sort of the dollar coming up. We saw that and we got that, we did get that short-term resurgence here as this started kind of middle of January, Then we saw more strength kicking in. And again, this is the area I didn't really want to see the DXY hold, although felt that it probably would. And so far it is. So we've got strength in the dollar at the moment that isn't painting the best picture in the world for risk. However, like I say, there's a lot of things we factor into that. The next thing I want to look at is the bond market. Now, what we can see here is the 2-year bonds. Okay, so this is basically if you're buying government debt, this is the percentage that they will give you. This is your yield, which is down at 4.279 as of right now. This reached all the way up here to almost 4.5%, meaning that government debt in the US is one of the safest things that you can buy. All right. So if you're a major fund and you can deploy a lot of capital and get 4.5 to 5% return on that with almost no risk, then that's a pretty safe bet, right? Rather than betting on cryptocurrency, for example, that can have these huge swings. So what you will find is while the bond yields are very attractive, it will kind of put a little bit of pressure onto risk assets. And actually what we're seeing even more so here, the different side of the curve, but we can see here with the US 10s, this is a key area for me, right? This is an area I'd like to see the 10 stay below. And at the moment, we're on a bearish retest of this after closing below. We're holding this bearish gap. If we start to see these start to sell off a little bit here, excuse me, they all of a sudden become a less appealing, they're less appealing for investors, right? Meaning that investors might then look to deploy some more of that to balance the fact that you're getting lesser returns from your safer investments. You then want to rebalance that portfolio a little bit, exposing a little bit more of it to risk so that you're getting the returns that you want to get for your clients and therefore be a very successful fund. So at the moment, we got kind of mixed signals here. The 2s are down, the 10s are on a little bit of a resurgence here. We've got a strong dollar. So this is where we look to the equity markets, and what we see here is that we've got a strong opening here on the equity markets. This is focusing on the Nasdaq. All right. So I was on the NQ contract, which is the forward-facing contract. However, this is NQ1. So if you want a full data contract, this is what you look at. Otherwise, it's broken down in monthly segments. So as we look at this here, we can see prices kind of, really on this scale, you're in this kind of. We were in this downward channel. We broke out of this. We're now back within this kind of consolidation. So as we look across the board here, we can see that you've kind of got, from the wicks of this area here, that was a major stopping point. This kind of area around here, this is a little bit messy, right? But you can see there's a clear kind of support and resistance area here. When price came into this area here, or maybe even actually a little bit lower, this was more of a deviation. Excuse me, we can see price coming into this area here, finding resistance above. When it gets above here, it's held. It's not the cleanest that, you would drive this down into lower time frames to find something that was a bit cleaner. But just to look at this as an area, the Nasdaq holding this area is positive, and in my opinion, positive for risk assets like Bitcoin, because we've got a lot of technology stocks sitting in here, and with the hit that AI gave to the market, obviously with the fear about with deep AI that was coming out from China, the idea that if China all of a sudden had the prominence of like the US, for example, with AI, then they can make things a lot cheaper. So there was that big threat, and companies like Nvidia make up so much, were really propping up the major indices, right? So when they took a hit, we saw the indices start to come tumbling, right? Obviously, we had the tariffs as well that were obviously a bit of a shock to the market. However, we can see at the moment that the price is actually holding pretty bullish here, but we still are in a consolidation. So how we factor this in today is a little bit mixed. If I'm looking at this from an intraday perspective, and I don't typically trade Mondays, I like to watch Monday's range play out, then this is the real kind of key point for me here. All right. That's our 4-hour bearish gap. We've come off of these lows here. We've had a really strong reaction after running these lows, gap lows as well. That's the gap that's rebalanced the low here. Price has now had this expansion. We're now back in this bearish gap up here. I think if we can inverse this, meaning we can close above it, then I think we've got the basis of kind of pushing up even further. And then that risk appetite in the market has a higher likelihood of washing through into cryptocurrency as well. Okay. So that's where I'm looking at across there. The other thing I want to look at with you guys quickly is looking at our dominance chart, right? So we can see Bitcoin dominance, which has obviously been on a massive tear here. Again, unfortunately, we thought we had it here, didn't we? And then again here, when we saw this start to sell off, we saw the total chart starting to rip again. It seemed like that money was going to come back down into the altcoin market, and then we were going to get that alt season ultimately. You know, this big rejection up here was one thing, but price is now continuing to grind up. So we want to see weakness in Bitcoin dominance. You want to see, you know, weakness in Bitcoin versus Ethereum. We want to see the total charts starting to pump quite hard again, right? So we can see here just in a little bit of decline. So as we factor that in, that's what we're looking at. Certainly what I'm factoring in for the risk markets, right? That's what I'm looking at. When can I start exposing myself to altcoins again? Now, that's very different to looking at a point whereby we can start to accumulate. Now, projects that we have good fundamental belief in, right? That we look in and we say, okay, what do I want to be part of my portfolio here? Well, things like FET, right? Fetch AI is something that I'm a really, really big fan of. Okay, so I think anything with here, you know, I've said it before, I like this area here. We laid this out, I think, on the stream a few weeks ago as well, saying, look, this low down here, this area of accumulation that we came into, we had this quite messy, you see it on a lower time frame here, support resistance level, you know, price getting above this here, established below resistance. So especially, you know, with recency here, as we can see from kind of March 22, as this has kind of moved through here, as we flip this area, this is typically, you know, looking to now hold as support. So I'm happy to accumulate some down at these levels. Again, it's just spot buys for me. I'm not kind of overexposing myself with leverage. Daniel, hello mate, how are you doing? See you sneak in there. Thank you, Gordon. Yeah, please do hit the likes, guys, if you are watching this, if you're able to on YouTube. I know we get most of our viewers and that through X and that these days, but it does really help the algorithm if you do. Obviously, if you like the content, if you don't feel obliged. Jojo, sorry, Seb, the SEC has asked for comments on Grayscale's application to convert their Litecoin trust into an ETF, and it's up 10% today. Yeah, exactly. You're going to get that. Market's still pretty illiquid as well, so news drivers are going to make certain you know, they're going to make certain ones pop off. All right, so it's difficult, you know, when you look across it market wide, it's still a little bit shaky at the moment before we see the recoveries, but absolutely, if you can get out ahead of those kind of news drivers, they can prove really, really lucrative. And Jojo, I managed to sign into Binance after multiple attempts, but there's no virtual protocol. What they've removed the token virtual. That's interesting. I definitely got a nice bag at that. Sorry, I've certainly got a nice bag of that. So yeah, that is an interesting one. I wonder why they've done that. We'll maybe take a look at that in a minute and see what that was. And Craig, exactly, that's what that was for Litecoin. So just with FET, for example, again, these are the kind of levels that I'm happy to accumulate some, and lower down here as well. You know, this is a very old school level down around here. Again, just looking at these key kind of pivot points that have offered resistance and support. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, you have to back the plays. For me, I think AI's got some big upside in this one at the moment as well. So I think that's really, really interesting. I think it makes that if I'm looking to deploy my capital, I want to be doing it into, you know, a strong narrative, but strong companies as well. And anything that's got any kind of track record really interests me as well. So with that in mind, does anybody have a few tickers they would like me to look over as we're kind of going down here? DMTR, always think of my good friend Menno, who was a very, very early stage adopter of that. Really, really good kind of fundamental understanding of the markets as well. Sui is another one. You know, as we've seen with that, we saw this huge resurgence here. People, you know, at some points would have been willing to sell their grandmother to get involved in this up here, or would have sold their grandmother to get a dip back. And now we've got that dip. People are very, very, very much looking back and going, oh my God, you know, everything's going to hell. But it's not. You know, if we get the resurgence, if everything is going down aggressively, and this is the, you know, this has been the beginning phase of the bear market, then yes, it is what it is, right? As long as you've got good projects there, you know, the chances are that you will see the recoveries in these over time. You might not, but that's where it comes to having a balanced portfolio and making sure you're not over leveraging yourself or taking yourself out of the game. All right. So let's see how many of these we can squeeze in. So what we got? B&B, sure, Daniel, no problem. Cape for our lovely Erica, as well as, oh, Gods. Haven't heard of that one, but it makes me think of American Gods, which I absolutely loved, but they cut the season and that was just an absolute kick in the nuts. XBT by Virtuals and Buys. Okay, yeah, that is really interesting, actually. Yeah, Cake as well. Daniel will definitely cover that. That looks like it's got some interest at the moment. IOM, Virtual, Cookie, desync and link. Brilliant. You guys couldn't have tried that any better, Jow and Gordon. Desync and link, and then Pendle. Right, 1 second. Get these ones fired up. Here we go. Right, so we're going to have a little rip through this as well. Amir, Doge. Yeah, let's slap Doge on the end. Our old mate. We've had a lot of fun with Doge over the years, so it seems only fair. So very quickly, I'm not really going to drive into two lower time frames here. I'm going to talk about these assets and where I'm looking to accumulate them. Sui is one here, you know, been open about this. We've covered it on previous streams, right? This is a good buy area for me. I like this for a number of reasons, but on a weekly scale, this is basically at a perfect level here. Golden pocket, holding the 0.75 level, great reaction there. This is basically 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and 1. You're breaking this basically into a large range. Yeah, with your midline here, 0.75 often gives us really, really good buying opportunities, as well as obviously the golden pocket. So this is a really, really key area for me. I like this to accumulate some SUI. So that's where I'm looking at in that perspective on a daily scale as we kind of zoom in a little bit more. If I wanted some extra confirmation from this, one thing I don't really like about this here is the fact that we just had this really long wick down into this level here. These wicks are often retraced to be filled a little bit more. So if we wanted to play this a little bit extra safe, we could look for a change in state of delivery here, or for this order block to be set, in which case now we have this down close candle here, especially since the body is closed below the body of these consecutive candles. If we get the daily close above that level there, as we have here, I could see this as a base as price starts to move up higher. Again, you know, we got to be wary of the next levels that are above us, because actually when you do the Fibonacci's, you can see how these levels act as really good areas of support and resistance, right? So again, probably we close down here, look for pullbacks to intraday to this level here, and then look to scale in a little bit more above that. So now we're going to rip through the list. What have we got? B&B. Yeah, again, just how many times have we seen it? This 503.8 level, look, just an absolute belter, this level. But again, key area of interest here. Why is that? Well, we flushed out the lows down here. The only thing I'd say with B&B is, you know, when we look at the real kind of extremities of the range here, or, you know, the external liquidity, I have to say this does look very tempting. Now, I'm not saying that B&B is coming all the way down here, but look at that. It's at $400 flat. Now, the next thing is, as price closes off here, it will tell us a lot, because we have this level here as well, which is at $500 flat. Again, don't you find these round numbers are a little bit overly convenient, right? We flushed out a lot of liquidity down here, and we've seen a really nice initial recovery wick. So there's a couple of ways to think about this for me. One is that if I'm looking at this in a much more long-term vision, then what we have here on the close of this candle is a bearish gap on a weekly scale. I could wait for price to close back above this and then expect this to run quite hot from here. If not, the only issue here is you want to see how this daily close comes in. You know, very, very difficult when you have these really long wicks. One thing we can do is just look to take 50% of them. use it like we would be measuring out like an order block and saying, okay, you would want to see this area hold. If we start closing down below this, I think the chances are that we purge a little bit lower. This is a really nice recovery wick here, though, like a lot of absorption, a lot of buyers stepped in here, but we need to now see that continuation here as well. All right, that's the key thing. The risk here with BNB is that there's a lot of liquidity resting down lower. So the daily gives us a much, much better idea of what's going on here. All right, I'm going to remove this at the moment just for clarity. But one of the things we can see here, if we're looking at what's capping the market, is we're coming out of this bearish gap, right? So this is what's capping the market. What we now want to see is price find support in this bullish gap below. Okay, and then the likelihood is that if we find support here, and then we can start building positions, this gap has now been rebalanced to this high. So that's where I look to take my intraday plays, all right? We find support here, I look for some setups, and then again, this is where I'd be looking to mitigate here. Then I want to see price establish itself above here. And then ultimately the next key level is around about here, right? Because this is what we would do. It's a very, very large order block, right? So make of that what you will. However, this consecutive series of down close candles here, price getting back above here, I think would show some significance. We then have a lot of liquidity in the terms of all these untapped highs that price would look to hunt down. So for BNB at the moment, really, really clear plan. Hold this bullish gap. We're moving higher. Close below this bullish gap here, inverting it. Then really the next call on liquidity down here is, you know, you're looking down at these levels again towards $500. Alex, hello, mate. Hazardous to some new here. Well, welcome, mate. Great to have you with us. Hit the like. Thank you very much. Can you check ETH and BTC dominance? Yeah, sure. Of course, we'll take a look at ETH at the end, and then we'll take another little look at BTCD as well. So, as we're here, very, very clear plan on BNB. So let's look at Cake. Okay, it's an interesting one here on Cake, actually. The T is for why, because I love seeing these key wick lows taken out, right? Again, a lot of these are going to seem similar, right? Because we saw this really kind of nice, buoyant, bullish reaction as we came into here. We left these lows untroubled, but that's not really a major problem, this consecutive series of down close candles here. One thing that is of interest here, actually, is this. This was the last order block here. And it's a weekly order block, right? It's the 3 down close candles. Price swept liquidity here as well, making it high probability. This was never retested. Price closed above and then just, you know, obviously went to the moon. This set a failure swing, meaning that there's always a high probability chance that price kind of comes back for this. And it has done. And again, it's had that nice reaction there. So what does that tell us? Well, not a lot at the moment, unfortunately, on a weekly scale, because we want to use this to take a look down here. Atit, Patel, and Miguel. Yeah, we will certainly try and fit Solar in. We've got about 12 to go. I'm sure we'll be able to do it. Look, a lot of these are going to look similar, right? So I'm not going to waste too much time on them. But basically, where we are at the moment here with Cake is this. If we don't want this thing to move lower, then this bullish gap here needs to hold. As long as we can hold this, we've got key liquidity resting above this wick and an absolute ton of liquidity for price to come higher. All right. People will still be a little bit in the mode at the moment that there's a little bit of disbelief going on in the markets. Like I said as well, we haven't got the clearest read in the world from traditional markets here as well. We've got quite a strong dollar that's holding up. The bond markets are holding up okay. But we've also got buoyant risk markets. Okay. One thing we will cover quickly before the end of the show is the news as well that we've got coming up this week, where we see those key volatility drivers come into the market. But for Cake, I like this here. You know, the first shifting structure that we've had in quite some time in this respect, meaning that we've set this higher now. What we want to do is see this start to play out, and we want to hold this level close below here. I think we flush out this low down here, and that's then when I'd look to get involved with longs again from down there. Again, not really looking to expose myself to any leverage here. What I'm really looking for, you know, a good area is to just add some spot to the portfolio. And I think, you know, with Cake here, this is at a good level at the moment. If you're willing to just keep dollar cost averaging into this, I'd be a happy buyer here to just add some to the bag, and then I'd look to add back down here again. Again, any confirmation to the upside would come, you know, with some structural moves, but I'd also want to see price, you know, close in above this on the daily scale, setting a large daily order block down here, and then again kind of using this as an established base for price to then push higher. The reason that I'm looking at these in that respect is, let me just show you something. If we're bearish here, for example, what we want to see is we want to see the down close candle, the up close candle, sorry. Yeah, we want to see these. Yeah, price closes below here, retest, that keeps price suppressed, the market moves down. When you start seeing these closes, price closes below here, we retest here, price sells off, right? Then down close candles here, suppressing price. Sorry, up close candles in this respect, because this is bearish. And we can just see all the way through here what this does. Yeah, up close candles, price closes below, can't get back above, yeah. Resistance again here, also from this bearish gap. Up close candles, price closes below, resistance through here. Up close candle, resistance, up close candles, resistance, right? So we now want to see that flip. We now want to see the down close candles, the bearish candles here offering support. Okay, just looking at that from periods of continuation. So that's where we are on Cape. Excuse me. Gods, this is the first time I've heard of this one actually. So let's take a look. Take a look at our friends over at Bitget. Okay, what have we got here? Okay, wow. So, I mean, look, again, nothing's like really standout clear here. But what I would say is if I'm looking for areas that have provided a decent reaction here, yeah, this kind of area here. Yes, you can include this down here as well. I think this is much more a deviation before a reclaim, and then this area was flipped to support. So something like that, I think this is a good area to buy. Again, I would want some kind of background information on this, some fundamental knowledge to understand the project better, which I don't at the moment. But this does look a little bit different, right, to the others. We haven't seen that initial big expansion here. So I think we, yeah, I think there's, you know, we want to see a little bit more from price here, in my opinion. Again, though, what we do have on a daily scale is this gap. So I think right now, if I've got belief in this project, I'm adding some to my bag down here. And then I'm saying to myself openly, okay, where's the real kind of, the real low is all the way over here, right? That's failed to be taken out yet. But again, this has really proved a good buy zone here. If this is going to hold here, then what we've seen is we've seen a deviation of the lows, a reclaim, a structural shift, and now a bullish retest of this area. Right. What we have here that we didn't have on some of the others is we have actually closed now above here, making this a daily order block. Again, adding confluence. We just want to see this area hold. Okay. All of these down close candles here. If you want to add a little bit of extra into this, I would look at the bodies of all these down close candles here. 50% is the low of this gap. This is the area I'd want to see hold for price to push up. Okay. OM. Oh, hang on. Make sure we're taking a look at the spot contract for you guys. Wow. Yeah, this thing just continuing to rip, isn't it? I mean, what's really classic about this is expansion, consolidation, expansion. You know, again, looking at this here, your real first kind of indication, which is why we look at it, is when we start closing above these down close candles. Because you see, we didn't close above these, didn't close above these, closed above this. People often think they've missed this move, and then you get that secondary expansion. So not really much we can gather from that weekly chart. Unfortunately, this thing really just is parabolic. When price is trending really hot, few things I do. I rely a lot more on the B Pro indicator, which is our, you know, the Burbicator Pro. This thing has had us bullish, you know, all the way from back here. I mean, look at how this held. This got you in at 1.372. Right, so you know, when you start to break out in these and you want to hold this, when B Pro tells you to just hold here, you hold through this, had you holding through this whole consolidation, you know, take some nerves of steel. But well, it doesn't really, you just need to listen to the indicator, and since you'd be 366% up. I use this a lot more in trending markets, right? So it's incredibly good trend following indicator. made by, Crypto Bourbon. A lot of people are a lot smarter than me. So this, however, is a really good point at which you can look at here and say to yourself, all right, look at our theory around order blocks, right? What are we looking for? Down closed candles closed above to be respected, which they are. We also hold these bullish gaps. Yeah. So let me draw this one in for you as well, just for anybody that's maybe not too familiar with this, right? Here's our bullish gap. Here's our bullish order block. Great buy area. Okay. So then you're just looking for the same as you continue to move up. That was the bullish order block set when this candle closed above. What then happened is we then got our bullish gap, which then overlaid this as well. Again, really good buying opportunity. With this one here, this is the area I want to see hold, because we've got this little down close candle here, right? But it's within the range of this candle, especially, the body. This body, engulfs this body here. So for me, that's the one I'm most interested in. So while we're here and we're holding this level, we have to be bullish, right? Bullish daily structure, overall bullish. We've got clean highs up here to attack. As long as we continue to hold this level, then I think OM pushes up from here. If we start coming and closing back into here, then I think these lows start to get taken out, and then we need to see how these gaps are respected. If we start closing below, invalidating or violating these gaps and inverting them, then we look to move lower. Amir, my friend, yeah, absolutely. We're making time for Doge towards the end, so we definitely won't miss you out, mate. Let's have a look. Virtual. Where do we have virtual? I think maybe I'm taking a look over on Bitget. Let's have a look. Yeah, this was it. This was the long that I tried to take over here on virtual and just got absolutely battered for it. Really strong breakout. Play the trend line support when all the good AI projects and good kind of tech projects were taking off, and it just absolutely melted through it. So let's make sure that we save that, because you always want to retain your data. So let's just save that as a group. Let's have a look. So we can see with this was a key point here, because price kind of came into this. We saw this wick rejection. When price closed above, we saw it used as support. Price closed below, we saw it used as resistance. By its nature, we'd reacted really nicely at a bullish gap here, swept out low, had a strong expansion. So I'd set some limit orders on here for price to go up. However, the issue was, the risk was that this was setting a lower high. So if we broke down, then, that's where we would put our hard stop, which we have. In terms of accumulating this, it's slightly different, right? With this one here, looking to accumulate this, again, I'm looking at these key areas of consolidation before price expanded. And what you want to do, you want to look at these areas with an idea of mitigation, right? So, what do I mean by that? Right, well, look, this was bullish here, right? Especially this move here. This move down before this huge expansion, reacting at this bullish gap, also reacting at this order block here, and then setting a new order block as it took off. That is an area that buyers were very, very strong. So when we come back to this area, what you want to see some signs of bullishness, right? You want to see a bullish gap. You want to see a change in state of delivery. So you'd want to see, these down closed candles here closed above. You'd want to see this bearish gap violated and invalidated. Unfortunately, we didn't. And then when you see weakness in these kind of areas where you would expect strength, so case in point here, we closed below this up close candle with this candle here, meaning this candle's retest here was ripe for selling, and we would be targeting this low down here, which at the moment I still think could come into play. So just looking at this here, make sure we understand, because we've also taken out this small low here, right? So that at the moment supporting price quite nicely. However, very, very difficult here to get involved, right? Because I kind of just really kind of buying a little bit of nothing here. I'd want to see a major low swept out, maybe a recovery of this, these down close candles here. Or now that we've got this one here, actually, an early stage recovery would take the form of price closing above this, all right? So looking at this on a daily scale here, down close candle that's now swept liquidity, price closes above this here, and then again looking at this area here, and then looking a little bit higher towards this gap. But this has had a pretty healthy sell-off here, virtual. Cookie. maybe a little bit more history. Yeah. So it's had a hell of a run up, didn't it? Like, you know, again, you start losing these areas, it gives you an early stage indication, right? Look, down close candle supporting price higher, down close candle supporting price higher. When we change that state of delivery and you start seeing price then closing below the up close candles, like here, look how this area just provided resistance until you know, got that inevitable sell off. Anyway, kind of looking at this here, what are we looking for? Yeah, again, one issue that you've got here is this bearish order block here, which price is kind of, you know, arguing with again in terms of a bullish move higher, closed below here, retested it here, price sold off. Again, we failed to take out this key low, which is always a little bit of a risk for me. That's definitely going to be on my radar. Down here, it's at 0.13700. If we start running these lows and that low, I think then I'm looking to get interested to see if I can get long from down here. At the moment, I would need to see price close above at least this, but in truth, that body is within the realm of this. So for any safer kind of plays, I would want to see price closing above this. Okay. And also kind of, you know, taking out that high as well, because then we're coming from a higher low to a higher high. We've got a structural shift, and then this gap is the next thing we need to worry about. But we would just be looking for this area to hold. I would probably consider some intraday short trades down towards this level if I got some setups. But again, I'd also need to see some weakness across some of the rest of the market as well. NCH, sorry. Desync. Let's have a look at this one. Oh, I know I'm on the perp chart here, but actually, no, that's okay for this one. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Let me just go on to the spot chart just in case there's any more data, which there is. Okay, so very welcome, Seb. Very welcome, mate. Yeah, okay. So really interesting point here is that this area of consolidation that again wasn't retested after price broke out is now supporting price. This is how I used to draw my order blocks, by the way, with the blue box. And now just do it with the black line, just so it's a little bit less obtrusive on the chart. But look, this was the down move here, that when price closed above this here, this just ripped. So natural to expect some more buying pressure when we get down to here. Really do want to kind of see a bit more of a reaction here. Again, like all the other alts, we kind of left this low here. So I think, again, if we want confirmation, we've now got this down close candle and the range of these two. We close above this here, which is at 0.2226 to look for continuation higher. Any kind of holding below this area here, you know, that's a key low for me. I think that's something that definitely, you know, comes into play if we start to break down from here. So I think sweeps of this low and recoveries are for long or for adding to the spot bag. Closing above here, I'd probably add some as well, looking to play into the strength rather than kind of play out the lows. You know, if we start to break back down below this here, you know, the real kind of lows of the market coming here, we can see that there's clear absorption coming from the wicks here, and here. So we could look to this, but again, I'd really want to know some kind of fundamentals around this as well. Let's take a look at Link. Probably want a cleaner chart than that one. It'll take me a while to clean that one up, I think. Here we go. This is a little bit better. Right, so Link. Just zoom out very quickly to look at the weekly, see if anything interesting is happening here, and it is. We've had a very nice reaction of this bullish gap down here on a weekly scale, which is nice to see. It means that we've got some kind of catalyst in here, a reason for this reaction. Also, I really like this reaction at the weekly swing low. That's super nice, right? Why? Because the key low, price whipped below it, recovered it. Tells me that it's just not getting acceptance lower. Bullish gap reaction, buyers stepped in, forced it back within this range. So now I'm kind of looking higher here from Link. Confirmation is going to be very difficult on a daily. No, it's not actually. Sorry, I take that back. Very small up close candle here in the body of this close below. This is an interesting one actually, because that's the order block we want to see set. So if we get the daily close today, I'm very interested in that. I'd be looking for pullbacks to build some intraday and then maybe some, you know, lower time frame continuing those into swing trades. This low again for me is definitely going to be interesting if price starts to break down from here. So what we want to see ideally is price close above this and then build some lower time frame bullish structure and then look to get back involved with Link. As that stands, I really like that recovery. So looking at this as the range, as the area, for price to hold. Yeah, I think that's about it really on Link. I think that's a really clear plan, right? Down close candle, close above and hold this, move to the lower time frames, look for long positions. Ultimately, this would probably be the next target on a daily scale, would be an underside retest of that bearish order block. So there's plenty of room to get involved here as well. So Pendle, maybe it was LE, PND, LE, let's look. Yeah, I think we've obviously taken a little bit of a look from this. Again, just, real liquidity games, key highs when these hold, when you lose these levels, you can see how often they're used as resistance. Just kind of zooming in on this one here. What have we done? We've taken out this low. I mean, that low is definitely going to be of interest. Just going to label that in. That's down at 1.819. Again, not to be too negative with this, but that's the kind of area that I'd be looking at there. One good thing with this on a daily scale is, although we're rejecting from this bearish gap here at the moment, we've rebalanced it with this wick, meaning that if we're looking, one issue that we've got here actually is, we can look at this to hold here as a daily order block right now. It's not the cleanest in the world because it's all of these candles are within the range of these larger two consecutive candles. However, we've had other up close candles printed within this area, and we can see this area holding as support. So as long as this area holds as support, then my first target here, looking at this on a shorter term scale, would be 3.790. Again, if this is something I'm looking to accumulate long term, then not the worst area to kind of to add some to this. Then I'd be looking at these lows to add some more if we broke down further here on Pendle. So Doge. Ooh. Look at our old friend Doge, shall we? Okay, so I mean, on a weekly scale, we've got this big gap here that price was reacting at, which is fine. Just reacting at, again, these daily gaps here as well. Doge not too dissimilar here. Not a big fan of this low that's kind of sat out here, although we do have a local low that's there. In an ideal world, I'd see a sweep of this low, yeah, and then an early stage recovery here from the daily order block. Skinny candle though, again, right, for a little bit more confirmation. I'd look for this large one to be said, but then we are just running up into bearish gaps. I think this is very much kind of a level to level play here on Doge. Just looking at the 4 hour very quickly to see if we get any more information from this. Not really at the moment. It looks like kind of a bit of a rejection coming in from this area. Yeah, I think on the 4 hour, these are looking really tempting here. If we see continued strength in like the bonds, the DXY, etc., stuff like that, if we're getting a bit more of a risk-off sentiment, I think these lows are here to be swept. So they could potentially provide some good long opportunities. Yeah, so we cover a level like this, look for those sweeps below and those recoveries, and then that's when we can get involved. I think still probably waiting for that daily confirmation, or certainly for price to get back above these down close candles here for Doge will give the more confirmation-based setup. But you can see, look, price running up to these levels, it's still got quite a way to go. So we'd just like to see some more key liquidity run out, first of all, here from Doge before getting involved. Ethereum. Looking at this from our kind of range plays here is really, really clean on the 4 hour. If this is kind of the time frame you're looking at, reclaim this range by closing above it. Got the retest here again, close back above this, retest again. Now we're just kind of pinging around in here. So on a 4 hour scale, you've got a really clean range here, favoring longs from the lows, favoring shorts from the highs. You want to see those big clean breakouts, right? So price closing above. And then when you see price close above like this, to prove it's not a deviation, we want to see the high of that. You want to see price kind of then, establish itself above this level, and then that's when you can start to look to long that asset. In terms of a daily scale, again, getting nice absorption off the range low here. So while we're in here, we have swept out this local low I think this looks okay for ETH here. This is definitely somewhere I could see it building a little bit of a base. Not as concerned about that big low down there, because, you know, we're holding this level here. While we hold this and we have swept liquidity, there's every chance that we can set this order block here and then look for continuation higher. So ETH again is all about holding this level, which is a let's have a look. Where are we here? 254. 2554.95. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so we're going to quickly just finish off. We're going to take a look at Solana, and then we'll take a very quick look at BTC dominance as well. Solana over here, let's have a look, clean this up a little bit. I think that's probably coming back into this pivot point if we draw that across here. Again, we can see how that was, you know, just been a really key area for support and resistance through here. So we can see where price can kind of run into. Another key area that it's arguing with here is 205.34. I want to see price above this level here. And then again, coming into this on an intraday basis, it's when we start closing above this level here, about 223.4. Look at this to be held as a base and really push up here on Solana. At the moment, again, there's a lot of untapped lows resting down here. As long as we hold below this level, the likelihood is that we still look to flush liquidity out lower because we haven't yet taken any. Baby Doge, yeah, okay. Is it this one? So Baby Doge, Amir here, what have we got? A little bit similar here, mate. I would want to kind of see this take some form of liquidity first. At the moment, this downside wick looks good, yeah? And then this upside wick looks a little bit ugly here, reacting from these bearish gaps. I'd like to see this low here or this low here taken out. Yeah, so the low at many zeros, 14000, all right? Or this low here. I think this is where you get those good, you get those kind of more high probability setups from, because we've taken some liquidity. If not, let's get price back above this level here on a daily scale, which is lots of zeros, 16888. Close above here. We had that first change in state of delivery. We set the bullish order block. We look to build from there. Again, be very, very careful with leverage at the moment. We're reacting from a nice bullish gap over here. So this really could be a nice catalyst for price to move higher. Now, someone did ask me to just take another little look at BTC dominance. So let me just pop across onto that very quickly. You know, we're above the 57.71 level here, which is always of interest to me. And it's just looking incredibly strong, right? What we really want to see here is price really start to break down. And, you know, the first kind of hope that we want for that is going to be seeing these up close candles here, close below, again, setting that bearish order block. And then we really just want to see price starting to move down. This upside wick here is encouraging. You know, we really kind of had that rip and now price has been suppressed, but no doubt that's super bullish at the moment. And as we look across onto our total charts as well, we want to start seeing some recoveries in these. Yeah, we want to start seeing some structure shifts, some highs being violated, some market structure being recovered. All right, so, you know, we've got this here now. We've taken some liquidity. Well, we haven't actually, still liquidity resting below the lows, but what we really want is looking at something like this, right? You want to see price kind of coming in off of this, setting a higher low, taking out this high, and then we look at this area here to form a base for price to push up. And then we want to see the opposite here on Bitcoin dominance. We want to see it start to lose some key levels and really make its way back down here, ultimately, you know, gunning to get below that 50% region as well. All right, guys, so we're going to put a pin in it there. We're kind of a little bit over schedule at the moment, run over by 10 minutes. So I have to give the studio back to the next legends who are coming in after me. I will be live again with you all on Wednesday. Just over 4,000 of you live today. Just want to say I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for your time. Mike, open source dev, I'm really sorry I didn't get round to yours, my friends. Really did try and squeeze in as many as we can. If you're around on Wednesday, please do pop onto the show. I'd be more than happy to cover them all for you then. All right, legends. So if you want to find out anything more about the Bird Nest, where we trade, and the professional trading team over there, and all the other amazing things we do based around education, you know, inverse prop desk and all those things, you can find information down in the description below. You can follow me on Twitter, BC_Richfield. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll catch a load of you legends around the nest later on today and throughout the week. Live trading sessions will be back from tomorrow. And yeah, I'll see the rest of you legends on Wednesday. Have a fantastic week ahead. everyone trade safe, keep an eye on the news as well. And I look forward to seeing you legends around the nest.